Hello, Cup of Hemlock. Welcome to another episode of our interview series. My name is Jillian Robinson. I am your associate producer here at Cup of Hemlock. And today I have a fabulous guest. Viewers and listeners, you would have just possibly tuned in to him on our Serving Elizabeth panel. He is a great dear friend of mine all throughout theater school, and he is a part of every pathway in the industry right now, doing such phenomenal work. Everyone, it's Cameron Grant. Cam, how you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before too. It's an opportunity, for our viewers to hear about you, and then an opportunity selfishly for us to catch up too. So I'm really looking forward to diving in with you today.
Yeah. Me too.
So to blast us off, we'll do the usual. What is in your cup today?
Yeah. It's sort of like this big mug. I'm staying at
Oh
a
my goodness,
friend's
yes.
house in Toronto. So anyway, she has this massive mug, but I'm having like a cream of Earl Grey tea latte.
Ooh,
It,
does it smell like Fruit Loops?
it's the David's
Earl
tea
Grey
one.
always smells like Fruit Loops to me.
Oops, that's such a
Have you
strange.
never heard that? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, a big old tall mug of Fruit Loops. I'm
Yeah.
loving this.
It's great. I'm totally into tea lattes these days because I have my like coffee in the morning and then try not to have more than one cup of coffee. So
True.
tea in the afternoon.
Nice. Love that. I am drinking out of University of Toronto mug to kind of
Oh,
call back to
very
Cam and I are
cool.
both alumni of the Theater and Drama Studies program, U of T in Sheridan, represent.
Yes.
And I was gonna just go for my staple cinnamon black coffee, but that's been on the panel way too often. So I added a little bit of French vanilla black coffee, so it's a mixture, and then some hazelnut creamer. So I feel like I'm drinking a
Fancy.
cookie today. It's great.
Yes. You are fancy. I
Uh-huh.
love it.
All right, so let's dive in. Tell us about yourself, Cam. How did you get into theater? We want to hear it all.
Yeah. How did I get into theater? So I guess to start, I'm an actor, I'm a theater creator. Um I've sort of dabbled into playwriting and directing and teaching. So I kind of do all types of different theater or avenues in theater. Um, and I guess the way I got into it, I don't know. I always grew up sort of playing sports. I played soccer competitively growing up and come from a big soccer family, an athletic family. So I didn't really have a lot of, not that I didn't, well, I didn't have access to the theater, not necessarily because we couldn't go. It's just, it wasn't part of my world. Like I was so busy with soccer and our family was so busy with soccer. We had other things to do. Um, and then like when the performing arts high school came to my elementary school, it sort of give a pitch about like possibly auditioning for certain programs and just give some information about the school. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna audition for the drama program with like no experience in theater at all. So like I'm glad I got in. I think I would have been devastated if I didn't because and I don't really know why, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm glad that I got in and that sort of started my interest in theater more. And as I sort of stepped away from soccer more competitively, I picked up more theater opportunities and I started doing community theater and was in the school play every year. And I had a great drama teacher who just really cared about our class and gave us a lot of opportunities and pushed us. And he really encouraged me to continue or to at least think about continuing on in theater school. But as we said, we both went to Sheridan and U of T, which is a very unique program because it's a actors training program and very academic program as well, and you're sort of doing both things at the same time. But it really worked for me because I didn't know yet that I if I wanted to be an actor. I knew I wanted to train as an actor and have an acting uh, training foundation, but I still wanted to leave open the possibility of possibly going into teaching, which I thought I would always do, and like artistic leadership and administration. So I just didn't. I knew I wanted to work in the arts, in theater and the performing arts, but I didn't necessarily know if I wanted to be an actor yet.
Right.
So U of T helped me do that, or helped me sort of explore all of that. Uh, and then I've been lucky to be working as an actor since, so that's
Hmm.
kind of cool. And then now I'm sort of pursuing other things as well and trying to find the balance of what all of that is. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I guess that was my way in.
Yeah, totally fascinating. I love this question. Like I love hearing everyone's origin story and how like varied it is. And like I can totally relate to too. I did a lot of sports growing up as
Yeah,
well. And there was that deciding factor of like, okay, do I want to do this as my career? Or I was also into a lot of like the STEM side of career paths.
yeah,
So I was like, do I want to go into sciences or arts? And just to call shout out the program again to U of T it was a wonderful program to kind of just you could just spread your wings and kind of go wherever you'd want to go. It had a lot of flexibility that way.
yeah,
So yeah. But here you are, absolutely acting all over our stages and with various different companies. And so before we kind of dive into all of that past to kind of stay in the present, the super snowy, kind of locked in present right
yeah,
now to address the white snowy elephant in the room currently. So, yes, we are still finding ourselves in the pandemic, and it has kind of caused us all to wear multiple hats and to pivot and shift. But a lot of us have been keeping up with certain things. So, what are some of the projects that or creative outlets that you've been keeping up with as part of these last few years?
yeah. Yeah, the pandemic was for everything that it was, to look on the bright side of it for me and for how it sort of disrupted and pivoted and changed my career. I was working at the Shaw Festival when everything shut down, and I was lucky to have them sort of keep us all on the company on for the summer to do other work and to stay creative. That gave us a little bit of a landing pad. But then after that summer ended, I was like, okay, I've got to figure out what I'm doing. And so it created a lot of space. I had been acting pretty nonstop, which was I was really fortunate to have. But I've always had, as I talked about, I've always sort of wanted to do other things, and I started all of these other balls that I wanted to keep rolling. So it gave me the time to look at playwriting and really sit with this idea and write my play Meet Chloe, and like do all of the work that that goes into that, just sort of sitting with that idea, writing grants and actually writing the play and getting it up on its feet. And then, I pivoted to a lot of teaching. I started like offering workshops to high schools and doing monologue workshops. And I found that I really loved that work. And that led me on a whole path towards reconnecting with my the theater in my city, Brampton, the Rose Brampton, and working with them on some educational projects. And then somehow that transformed into me teaching at Ryerson University and running a scene study class there with their second year students. So that was really exciting. Um, and then like exploring artistic leadership and like how sort of writing and acting and like this administrative and teaching and even a little bit of assistant directing, how that might sort of start to come together into like, okay, what am I doing with all these things? And like my voice as a sort of as an activist and a theater activator, like how can that sort of come together into artistic leadership? So that's been this whole time while still like doing small acting things and large acting things and trying to stay healthy and
Yep.
work out and all of those things. It's
All the
been busy.
things.
It's been such a busy time, but also like, this also sort of tumultuous time. Like things get
Totally.
canceled, things get rearranged, and it's just really taught me to roll with the punches.
I always find to it's sometimes very difficult, but to find the silver lining of things like you just mentioned, like there is something to everything halting and kind of encouraging us to take stock and sometimes a lot of the times projects that are in the back of your mind or are on the back burner are forced to the forefront because they're the things keeping us going. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I have cracked this open if everything else didn't come to a halt. Right. So yeah,
Yeah.
we got to take those little wins and yeah, successes during a
Yeah.
time
And I think
when
like what I didn't expect was that like I think maybe like the impetus at the beginning was like, okay, I can't do this, I can't act, so I've got to do this to, make money, to stay creative. And I didn't think I would love it as much, but what I
Yeah.
found is that like I love it equally. So
Right.
now, like as we're still in the pandemic, but as we're like coming out of it, and as we've been in and out of it, it's now like trying to find a balance of like I love doing all of these things, and I feel like creatively fulfilled by doing it. So it's like
Okay.
making space and trying and trusting that I can pursue different avenues. So yeah, I'm not just an actor anymore, which is a little weird. It's a weird thing to
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
But it's great.
Yeah.
It's so good. So I want to unpack all of these little tidbits, journeys that you've been on. So I guess let's start with what our viewers are. I saw part of you recently too, and your larger acting roles during the pandemic. In the summer of 2021, Cam played Montague and Stephen in Marcia Johnson's Serving Elizabeth at Stratford. So tell us what that experience was like, and especially alluding to like coming back to live performance post lockdown. What was that all about? And being a part of an original Canadian work. What was that all about? Yeah.
Yeah. It was such a cool experience. Like it's I kind of describe it as like a unicorn experience, which is kind of sad because like not all theater experiences are like this. And like it was one of those situations where the cast was amazing, the play was amazing, the director was amazing, everybody got along, and we did the play. Like it was just a good, there was no complaints. But it was also totally unexpected. We were in March of 2021, and Stratford was getting their season together, and they asked if I would be interested in reading for the part, and I was like, yeah, why not? Like I was kind of feeling I was running a program as the coordinator with the city of Brampton, a co-op program for Black and Indigenous students, high school students, who are interested in the performing arts. So I was like deep into that, and it was like this big project that I had sort of taken on. And I was already kind of feeling I was like, oh wow, I feel so far away from being an actor right now. And I was writing, that's when I was writing Meet Chloe. So I wasn't doing a ton of acting. And I was kind of looking out at the year too and thinking, yeah, I'm probably not going to act much this year. And so it just came at the right time. And I was like, yeah, this works. A few months in Stratford. It's a great play. Kimberly Rampersad directed it, is a good friend of mine. And we worked together, or we worked around each other at Shaw, but we never actually worked together as her directing. So it was amazing to be in her room, to sort of have that personal relationship, but then also see like how amazing she was as a director, and like as a friend of hers, I was like so proud of her, like the way that she took command of that room and led everybody into the process. She's such a warm and generous director, and it was a chance to work with people that I've always looked up to. So Arlene, who was in the talkback the other night as well, like she's always been somebody I looked up to in the industry, and so it was amazing to sort of sit beside her on the first day and be like, oh my god, we're both making our Stratford debut,
Yeah.
and working with Virgilia, who's just amazing, and
Mhm.
Sarah Topham, who we worked around each other at Shaw, but never worked together, so that was cool too. And meeting Sean was also really nice. And then Marcia's play, it's such a cool and interesting and exciting play that I had read when they did the first round of auditions for the Thousand Island Playhouse production of it that was at Kamloops. But I couldn't audition for it because I was at Shaw at the time. So I was kind of like, damn, like I really want to do that play. And so I was
Yeah.
kind of hoping that it would be good and that other companies would pick it up. So it was like a welcomed surprise, and it was really exciting to jump into it. And it was cool because it was all our first show back, so there was this real like respect for like what we were doing, and like this acknowledgement that we were really lucky to be at Stratford, to be doing this play. And um you know we were really conscious of the fact that there were a lot of our colleagues weren't working at the time, and so I don't know, it just felt like we had to like take this more serious. Like not that we wouldn't have taken it seriously, but like
know
it
what you
just
mean, though.
felt
Yeah.
really special. So we were all like, let's do this play. Like let's put it up because we're lucky to be working. So um we're not just gonna phone it in. Not that anybody would, but like, that
Yeah.
was really there was a lot of respect in that room for what we were doing, which is cool.
Mm. Yeah, totally. Did you find as an actor, and like you were saying before stepping into this piece, you were doing a lot of like educational side of the industry, and then also, you know, being off of stages throughout all of 2020. Like, did you find as the performer, as the actor, like kinks and cobwebs, kind of like, what was that
Oh my god,
experience?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember the first week, I was so tired. Like it was exhausting, right? We were back up on our feet all day and
Mhm.
pulling long days and back to the 6 days a week rehearsals, 10 to 6. So and like usually as an actor, like I'll go like, I'll do the 10 to 6 day, I'll go home, maybe work for or have dinner or whatever, work for an hour and then, go to bed and then wake up and do it all again. But like I could not, like the day was done and I was like, I can't think anymore. I can't look at anything. I can't memorize anything. Luckily like my part and I think like the way that Kim sort of constructed the rehearsal schedule allowed for us to have like we nobody really did like a full 10 to 6 day every day. So there were times where I was off in the morning so I could work or whatever. But it was, yeah, it took a while to get back into like the energy of it. But like at the same time in the room, it was like we hadn't missed any time. Like it was so exciting to just be creating with people again and like having those conversations, like really rich conversations about the play and like um yeah, it was also like one of those experiences where as an actor, I really felt like I had a good understanding of like where I was in the process and what I was doing and who this character was. So there was a lot of, I don't know, I sort of entered the space with a lot of, not to sound I want to say confidence, but not confidence in like myself, just confidence in the process of
Totally. Yeah.
what this play was and what we were doing with it. And I think a lot of that has to do with Kim and the cast and how we
Mhm.
all entered it. But it was, yeah,
Yeah,
it was just it was an easy space to enter and to work in. Yeah.
for sure. And I can attest, like those of you again who have tuned into the Starring Elizabeth panel, I had the opportunity to see this show in person and the digital as well. And it's true. You all operated like a family. Like you could feel that chemistry kind of and that support coming from all of you. So
Yeah.
it's so lovely to hear that is how the rooms were guided. And especially, yeah, coming out of everyone's kind of coming back to the table after whatever type of hiatus that we've kind of pivoted to over the last couple years. So it's lovely to hear that artists are we're all supporting each other and
Yeah.
encouraging us to get back up doing what we love, and then especially with serving Elizabeth, which was such an impeccable piece too. So
Thanks.
yeah,
Yeah.
love
I mean,
that.
it's not always like that too, right? So like
Mhm.
that's why I call it a unicorn because, and that's unfortunate, but the reality is that yeah, it's not always that easy. Sometimes there's personalities in the room that sort of make it, you know, um, different. And so, and there's things people have to manage people. And, definitely in the season of like being outside and like back from COVID, like it could have been a lot more stressful than it was.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a great experience where we were all just like, yeah, we're doing this. Let's do it.
Yeah, great. Yay.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so you've mentioned too, alongside like your little tidbits of things you've done in the past, the Shaw Festival. So to kind of pivot us to another repertory theater company, the Shaw Festival, you did several seasons with the Shaw Festival. So tell us what your experience with Shaw was like.
It was cool. Like, so I spent 4 years there.
Hmm.
I was my fourth year there was that season that ended up pausing because of COVID. But I went to the Shaw Festival right after graduating from Sheridan U of T, or the year after. So I had like moved to Toronto and like spent the summer in the city, sort of auditioning and like running around like a madman, working like 5 part-time jobs. It was crazy, but it was fun and it was really cool. And then I got a general audition for the Shaw Festival, and it's funny because like I had spent the like first half of the summer auditioning for Stratford, like doing like 3 or 4 auditions for them, and then sort of um, August came and they sent an email through my agent and they were like, "Yeah, there's nothing. Unfortunately, we don't have anything for him this next season." And I was so like, I was kind of bummed. Like I kind
Mhm.
of told myself, "Don't get excited. It's just like Stratford's huge. You're just out of school." But like as I started doing more auditions, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I might get this right." And then I didn't. So then like Shaw, who does their generals much later in the summer, they called me in for a general and I was like, okay, Cameron, like don't even like they literally just want to see who you are and like just go in, do a monologue, but don't expect anything. And I didn't. Like so I went in and I did my monologue and they were really nice and we had a great conversation and it was fun, but I left thinking, okay, great. Like maybe they'll call me like, I think I left thinking I did well enough that I think they'll call me back in a couple of years to see what I'm doing. As long as I keep busy, like show them that I'm, working, like they'll keep in touch with me. And then they gave me a call back, but again, it was for a part that like I just knew I wasn't gonna get. So it was like, you know what? They just want to see me like what I do with text that isn't mine. And like, try to how I interpret this text and this big sort of piece and what my way in would be. So again, I just didn't like I went into this audition without like the weight of like, oh my God, I hope they're gonna hire me or I've got to
Right.
prove that they'll hire me. And like, cause I just had no sort of expectation that they would. But it didn't occur to me that they might hire me for something else, like that's not necessarily that part that they were calling me back for, but for another part in the season and more appropriate part. And so when I got the offer to go, it was like both like totally unexpected and like really exciting and like really scary because um I had no expectation to go to a place like that so early in my career. And then to stay for 4 years was like I call it my master's now. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it was really an opportunity for me to just sit in a company and like have some longevity and stability. And like I'm really grateful to Tim Carroll for kind of curating an experience for me, like and for tailoring how I moved through every year and like challenging me every year to give me opportunities. But then also opportunities to like sit back and watch and learn and work in the room with, incredible people. Like there are some so like incredibly talented and skilled actors at the Shaw Festival who some of them have been working there longer than I've been alive, like itself. So it's such an as a young actor, it's such an incredible opportunity to both be in the company and I think under Tim Carroll at least, like he did a really good job at making sure all the young actors had an opportunity to really like highlight themselves, like to really work and be in the room, and then an opportunity to, yeah, maybe take the back seat and play a more supporting part and move furniture and whatnot. But that allows you to have the time to focus on your larger parts, but then also have the time to just be in the room and learn. And if
Absorb. Yeah.
you're willing to absorb it, right? There's
Mhm.
there's classes and I just met so many collaborators and people who like were interested in seeing me grow as an artist,
Yeah.
which I didn't expect. I really
Mhm.
didn't. I kind of thought I'd go there and I'm, going to be this young kid sort of do my first season and then they might just be like, all right, cool. Thanks for that and see you later. I didn't expect to find a community there that like was interested in seeing me and helping me succeed and grow as an actor, which was
Totally.
really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always been attracted to Shaw Festival because part of the reason, like, I love that they do so many educational like talk back opportunities
Yeah.
and integrate artists into their audiences. Like I had the opportunity of our program offered that Shaw Festival course that you could take
Yeah.
in the summer between second and third year. And it was like a 2-week intensive. You saw shows, and then also Lawrence Switsky, prof at U of T, he was the prof on this course, and he would lecture about the playwright or about the plays we were seeing. And then we had
Mm.
talkbacks with artists, and like the Shaw Festival, I was so attracted to it because it was balancing that kind of like academic and practical side that our program was, right? And
Yeah.
talk about like opening doors to other avenues of the industry. That I know that one course did so much for me, of opening my eyes to direction and stage management,
Yeah.
and it really is like a revolving door of so many faces and um experiences of like young, old, there for a couple seasons, there for 25 plus seasons.
Yeah.
Um, so that's so neat that you say it's almost like a master's. Like I can imagine. Like was it very much like from you being in the actor side of it? Like did you find it kind of reminiscent of the program of right like balancing academic and
Yeah.
practical?
Yeah, because you have this really like structured life, right? Like, so,
Hmm.
it's like most of the years that I was there, it was a 9-month contract and like 6 days a week. And every day you get your schedule and like your weekly schedule of like sort of what's the sort of long term look at the week and then your daily schedule. And there's like between rehearsals and performances, there's always workshops happening,
Hmm.
coaching's available. They have, it's an amazing sort of place because they have a lot of resources. They have coaches that are there all season. So even mid-season, when your shows are open, you can take a voice class with one of the voice teachers and work on either
Yeah,
something
yeah.
else or work on your just have a voice class. Or there's movement classes every week. Tim Carroll would run ensemble classes every week, so like there was just the opportunity to it felt like being back in school. And then of course you're seeing all the same people all the time and the people in your cast, but then also the people in other crosses. So you really do kind of get this sort of company vibe
Yeah.
and this opportunity to learn and connect with a bunch of different people. And yeah, as you were sort of saying before, with all the educational stuff too, like that's where I started to do workshops and stuff. I just sort of love to hang around the education department because there's such cool people who work there.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, can I just sit in on workshops so I can learn how to run these? Just because I don't know, I thought it would be cool. And I hadn't like that is like the direct seed to like me being able to offer workshops throughout the pandemic and teach at Ryerson, like starting all of that at Shaw and them sort of being like, well, yeah, you've already taught through soccer. It's just applying all of those things that through a, a theater workshop. And so,
Right.
yeah, it was a cool place to try a bunch of different things
Totally.
too. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, and launching
Yeah.
right out of school into something like that. Like that's so great. Um and I remember seeing you in some of the shows. I would make a trip out of it to
Yeah.
spend a day at the Shaw. Oh, back when live theater was it'll be back. It'll be back. If
It'll be
not
back.
back, back in spurts,
Yeah.
we'll just juggle all the other hats in the meantime, which is a wonderful pivot to our next question, which I want to cycle us back to Meet Chloe, which you've mentioned, you've touched on a couple times thus far. So Meet Chloe, this is your first piece of writing that's been commissioned for performance, is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about the origin of your play Meet Chloe and its journey towards performance. We'll
Yeah.
start there and then see where that takes us.
Yeah. It's so me, Chloe's been like in the making. Well, the story of Chloe Cooley and in my head and how to write that has been in the making since I moved to Niagara-on-the-Lake. So when I moved to Niagara-on-the-Lake for my first season, it's on top of like working at the Shaw Festival. It's also Niagara-on-the-Lake is this beautiful town that is like surrounded by um, natural tourism and like beautiful like trails and forests and the water, obviously. And then it's a town that is sort of steeped in Black history. End of the Underground Railroad, um, and then the story of Chloe Cooley. that I came across when I first moved there, and I had never heard of before. So if you don't know about Chloe Cooley, she was a black woman who was enslaved in the 1700s, and she was sold across the river, the Niagara River, to the American side. And when the man who was selling her was taking her over, she fought and screamed the whole way, like literally disturbed the peace by screaming. So much so that the man who sold her was charged with disturbing the peace when he got back. Um, he did sell her, but it was that event that was brought to the attention of John Graves Simcoe, who's the first lieutenant governor of Upper Canada at the time, and then he enacted the Act Against Slavery law, which is Canada's only anti-law that sort of limited slavery in Canada. And that happened that was a direct relation to that event. That happened 4 months. The law came into place 4 months after that event was brought to his attention 2 weeks after. So she's sort of heralded as the catalyst of that law. And I had no idea of that. Like I never
Yeah.
learned about that in school. So it was both like really exciting, really like to hear about her story, but then also like it made me really angry that I was 23 years old and had never heard about her at all in my formal education throughout my elementary, high school, university career. So then I was like, okay, like, and then it was like I learned about it, and then it was a story that kind of haunted me my whole time that it was there. Like I sat down to try to write a play about it, maybe like 3 or 4 times, and it just never came out right. And I was like, and the biggest thing that I didn't add that kind of kept holding me back was that like all we have of Chloe Cooley is this event. That's all she's disappeared into the American slave system afterwards, and we don't know much about her life before that. So it's like this really traumatic event that
Mm.
I didn't want to write a play about that event because I didn't want to write a play about trauma. So it took me a while to figure out how to do it. And then, the pandemic hit and I had just like the mental space. But then we were also doing this. We were sitting on Zoom having conversations um, about life. And then once George Floyd was murdered and Breonna Taylor and that sort of reckoning that we all kind of went through, we were sitting on Zoom having conversations about race and racism and history. And so that's when I was kind of like, oh, maybe this sort of fits in the world of Zoom. It's a virtual play. It's like maybe it's a student researching a history project, and then all of the stories came into place. So, Meet Chloe sort of takes place in a grade 10 history class where Chloe, sort of who has the same name as Chloe Cooley, a grade
Mhm.
10 student, is doing a research project on John Graves Simcoe and then comes across Chloe Cooley's story, decides she wants to switch her project to Chloe Cooley, her research project to Chloe Cooley. So she has to convince her teachers and her group mates. And it's about, the tensions around that of like, how do we research somebody who doesn't have a written history
Right.
beyond that, that single event, and the challenge of who gets a legacy and how society decides who gets a legacy and how that trickles down into education. Um, so it's cool. And then, Carousel Players picked it up. So I wrote a couple grants to write it, and I received a few grants from TYA companies to write it. And then Carousel Players wanted to continue developing it and ultimately produce it. So it's been like a wild experience writing it and
Mm.
getting it up on its feet. And now it's being offered to schools until the end of May. It's booking really well, which is cool. But it's really just exciting that a lot of students are going to be able to see it. And like, if they don't know about Chloe Cooley, learn about her, but then also start to engage in this conversation about like, who are the people whose histories we value? Who are the legacies that are passed down to us? And who's missing in that group,
Yep.
where are those stories that are missing and why aren't we learning about them? Um,
Totally.
yeah.
And in such an accessible space like Zoom, like you
Yeah.
said, like writing it for Zoom, like what an amazing opportunity to outreach this piece now in a way that is super accessible now. And we should have been learning about these things a long time ago, but the fact
Yeah.
that we're starting, yes, the starting now, like, did you
Yeah.
have it, in the back of your mind that it would like from the get-go be a TYA sort of like for your demographic, what were students?
Yeah, I think I did. Like, well, when I started writing this version of it, like when I was like, yeah, okay, this is it. I was like, this has got to be a TYA show, and it's the first TYA. I've written before.
Mhm.
I've never shared it, or like I'll write a few scenes and I'll be like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Maybe not. I'll just sort of backward that. So I have all of these sort of plays that are unfinished or sort of finished or first drafts. So this was the first one that really sort of charged me to complete, and then getting some grants to write it helped me sort of at least take the time to write it, so that I could pay myself to write this play and carve out that time. But yeah, it was always for TYA. It was like, I think this has got to be for young people. And as I was teaching and offering workshops and running this program, I was writing it. So the program at the City of Brampton. So I was already in that educator space too. So I was thinking about just like all of these students that I was interacting with all the
Yeah.
throughout the year, and how smart they were, and how like amazing their questions were when I would talk to them, and the insights that they shared. And I was like, this conversation about these big ideas, education, history, race, these students are having them. So like, why not put these sort of like, there are kind of a bit of an intellectual argument that happens in the play. It's like, why not just put them into the voices of young people, so that young people can see themselves in the play and be like, yeah, those are the thoughts that I think. Those are the feelings that I have, and kind of give voice to that and give permission for them to to have those thoughts and to share those insights.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've always said too, like arts for advocacy and like arts for emotional expression. Like I think so often our lives we have like the blinders on and we're told maybe not to express or not to feel certain ways, not to um allow impact in everyday life. And then something like a piece of theater or something like the arts can really dig into things we don't talk about, things we haven't talked about, things we should be talking about, and in a
Yeah.
comfortable lens, like what you're saying, where there is a relatability, there is that connection. And like, what fabulous way of using, I mean, all of the teenagers and kids below us are going to be absolute Zoom experts. Like that's just going to be, they're going to
Right.
be well equipped in what this digital world is.
Yeah.
And so to give them that opportunity to explore in a medium that they're comfortable in and in a medium that speaks to them with content that, like you said, they're already talking about it. Like kids are smart. Like we learn
They're
so
so
much
smart.
from the generations below us. Like, and
Yeah, if we want to, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
sometimes that's the thing. Like, we've got to give them the platform, and
Yep.
value their voices, right? When we don't, and often we don't, because young people can like look at the world and like speak to like exactly what the solution should be, without having any of the like political or like bureaucratic barriers in the way, right? So young people will offer solutions, and then we'll go, yeah, but this and that. And it's like, well, what if we actually just listen to what they say, and find a way to do it?
Cut to the core and get to work. Action.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, this is so
Yeah.
exciting. And you said it's available for schools like to the end of May.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be any like public viewing opportunities, or do you think this will stay in the scope of school boards?
So it's being offered, like Carousel Players is offering it like to schools to book directly, because it comes with like workshops and all of that. There is, I think, in April, but I'm not sure if the dates have been set yet. But it's also Carousel Players' 50th year anniversary, so
Right.
they're going to be off. They're going to be doing a big sort of festival uh, to just highlight their company's 50th year. So it will be screened in that festival, as part of that festival, a couple of times.
Cool.
But the dates, I'm not sure the dates are set yet for it. So
Yeah. No worry. We will keep our
look out
eyes
for
peeled and for
it.
that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so exciting. So this, you're saying like this play was the first one you've buckled down. You said you've had other drafts. So like playwriting and wearing that hat, is playwriting a potential avenue or spoke of the industry that you're wanting to continue pursuing?
Yeah, I think so. Like
Mhm,
what I'm finding is that like when so another thing of like sort of connecting back to the when we were talking about Shaw, like
mhm.
while working at Shaw was this sort of amazing sort of experience. Um, it creatively, it really sort of dominates all of your creative energy. Like you're spending most of the year there. You're working very intensely on these plays and throughout the season. So I think a lot of these ideas that I had writing just didn't have the time to. I didn't have the time or the energy to write it, right? And
Yeah.
so often I just sort of write little notes or put them away. And now that like I'm not working at Shaw, taking some space from there and have more just like more actual time, I have time to follow through on some of these ideas. And like I said before, like I'm finding that I like it. Like I find the creative satisfaction in it as much as I do when I'm on the stage. So yeah, I think writing's gonna stick around a little bit. I already have some other ideas that I'm writing. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Excited to hear how those go.
Yeah.
Um, that's great. That's so great. So while we're on the topic of, yeah, of taking time, of pivoting, of making time, I want to talk about your time that you've spent in your hometown of Brampton with the theater company, The Rose Brampton. So tell us about that experience and what you're learning or gaining from your time spent there.
Yeah. So I there's no other than the Rose Brampton, which is a presenting theater, and it's run by the city of Brampton. There aren't any professional theater companies in Brampton. So the city that I loved, and I grew up doing theater at the Rose. Our high school would always rent it out for our school production and our school musical. Um, after going to university, I haven't spent a lot of time in Brampton because there aren't many professional opportunities there.
Mhm.
So returning home during the pandemic, I connected with them to with the education people there and started running workshops and just connecting with them on a bunch of different projects. And that kind of led to me helping facilitate this co-op program for Black and Indigenous students in the performing arts. And that was a big project that we ran over the spring of 2021. And then that kind of turned into me sort of like, okay, like I love being home. I love working here. And so they supported me in writing a grant to the Canada Council to do an artistic leadership internship there, which we got. So this year, 2021, 2022, I'm spending the year there learning from the artistic director, Stephen Chipper, and working with the programmer, Danny Harvey, and the education coordinator, Christina Krong. And we're doing a bunch of different things. And sometimes I'm just sitting in there and watching meetings and listening and just seeing how the organization runs. But it's been a cool opportunity to just get a sense of like as I'm sort of thinking about artistic leadership, like what's involved in that and like
Mm.
how how I might find my voice and my place in artistic leadership. And then specifically in Brampton where we have this real need for professional arts opportunities. We have all of these artists who come out of Brampton, um, but don't have the opportunity to work there. So if we had another professional theater company, then that might be pretty cool to have a bit more of a artistic home in Brampton for all these artists to come back to and to work out of. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
You're building quite the arsenal of skill sets for alongside like you learning the directly as apprenticeship artistic leadership skills, but then also knowing like your trajectory as a performer, as a playwright, as an educator. Yeah, like you've said it, but like artistic direction down the line, like that's something you would be interested in?
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
Leading a company, but then also it might be artistic direction, but it also might be like an education programmer, or it might be working at a university. Like I think there's like as I'm sort of pursuing all of these avenues, I know that it's whatever it is, I've got to still be creative in it all, and but it could go in different directions.
Mm.
So artistic leadership maybe seems to be like the way that would allow me to keep
Catch
touching on a
all of
bunch of
everything.
different things.
Yeah,
So we'll see.
great.
Yeah, yeah,
Just taking things as they come, riding the wave as
that's
we
all
kind
we
of
can do.
trudge our way currently through the snow. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, you've given us so much food for thought today, Cam, and I loved catching up with you. Also, just friend to friend, it's always so great. And to hear about all of your ventures, we'll definitely be sure to keep everyone up to date with specifically me, Chloe, with any projects down the line. Um, yeah, this has been so you've inspired me. You always do every time we have a chat, but you've definitely inspired me. And again, in our bleak times, we need friendship, we need support, we need motivation, and you've definitely carved that out for me and I know all of our listeners today. So thank you so much for
Thank
spending
you.
time with us. So before we close out, do you have any other? No, I said we'll mention Meet Chloe, but do you have any other projects on the go or upcoming? And if so, or if not, just where can we keep up with you in the meantime?
Yeah, yeah. So coming up, I'm assistant directing a show at Factory Theater. I'm assisting Nina Liakino in David Yee's new play Among Men, which is going to be really cool. And it's supposed to be their Factory's return back to in-person programming. So hopefully it happens. Um, but that's going to be April or end of April. It opens. So hopefully by then we're out of this next wave. So I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be really cool.
Great.
Uh, and then yes, stay in touch with me on Twitter and Instagram, Cam double M underscore Grant. Yeah,
Great.
I don't really post much, but when I do, it's cool.
Amazing. Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, you heard it here. That's so exciting. Yeah, we'll definitely keep everyone up to date. In the meantime, as we've mentioned before, we will keep healthy, keep creative, keep
yes,
warm,
stay warm.
keep something warm in your cup.
Yeah,
And we will catch everyone on our next episode. Thank you again, Cam.
thank you so much.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, it's so fun.